Hello, in this video I am going to go through the calculated questions from Algebra quiz number 5. And before I do so, I just wanted to point out that in our quizzes, we don't put a mark next to each of the questions so that you focus on the feedback. But it's important to note that if they're worth more than 1 mark, you really do need to show some working out. If you don't, then you'll only get a single mark probably. So keep that in mind, and I'll try and point out when you would probably put more working out and what that would look like as we go along here. So let's have a look at this first question. Let's solve a pair of simultaneous equations. Now these two are a linear equation and a quadratic, but it could be a linear and a linear that you need to do. So when you need to solve a pair of equations, you're going to go to the menu button, you're going to go to Algebra, and then you're going to go number 7 for solve system of equations. Note there are two choices here, system of equations or system of linear equations. So you would use system of linear equations if there were no powers greater than 1. Otherwise, you need to use this one here. How many equations are there? 2. What are the variables? X, comma, y. Even if this said P and Q or something like that, I'd just use X and Y and be done with it. Just to make sure you don't get it mixed up, that your Y's are basically this bit and your X's are basically this bit. So I'll click on OK. And now you need to put in both of the equations here. So you've got Y equals minus X plus 4. And then I'm going to use my down button. And I'm going to type in Y equals X squared. Press the arrow to get back again, plus 2. And the rest has been filled out nicely for us. So it says, give us the solutions in lists of X, Y's, basically is what that means. So I'm going to press return or enter. And there we've got it. X equals minus 2, Y equals 6, or X equals 1 and Y equals 3. So you would literally write down bracket minus 2 comma 6 and bracket 1 comma 3, close bracket. Okay, so put them down as ordered pairs. In terms of this question, it's probably bound to be more than 1 mark. If it was worth 1 mark, do that, write that down, move on. If it's worth more than 1 mark, you'd probably do something like x squared plus 2 equals x plus 4. In other words, match up the y's here. Maybe simplify onto one side till you get x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. And then you would solve for x, something like that. It takes a bit longer though. Again, I'll just remind you how to do that on your calculator. If I go to menu, algebra, and then solve, what was it? It was x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0, comma x to say with respect to x. Press enter, and look, I get x equals minus 1 and x equals 2. I've got it around the other way here. It's probably because I should have added the x, not subtracted the x. So I'll go back and sort that out. Not perfect, as you would well know by now. Just make sure I was trying to do it in my head. So x squared, and then the plus x will go over here. And then I've got plus 2 minus 4 will give me the minus 2. Yeah, so the rest of it's fine. It was just a plus x. So if I press return here, yeah, now it matches up. X equals minus 2 and x equals 1. X equals minus 2 and x equals 1. And then you could substitute them in to get the other ones, or you could basically solve for x and then solve the linear equations to get the y values. So use your calculator cleverly. They don't need to know how you're using your calculator. They just need to know the right answers, I suppose. So using your calculator cleverly will get you the marks that you need, but recognizing that if they're worth more than 1 mark, then you're going to have to put some working out to show that you understand the process. But then just let your GDC, your calculator, to do all the hard work of figuring stuff out. These ones, I've just shown you how to do solve. You can, when you go menu solve, you really can just put it in exactly as it says on the paper. So 2x plus 5. I'd expect you to be able to do this without a calculator anyway, but it's pretty good to just confirm 4x minus 7, close bracket, equals 0, comma x. I really think it would have been easier to write this down, the answer down, than do this on your calculator. And it gives me x equals minus 5 on 2 and x equals 7 over 4, which feels about right by the null factor law there. I think, I could be wrong here, but I think if I went Control Enter, yeah, it'll give me the decimal equivalent instead. That little squiggly equal sign means approximately equal to, although these are exact here. So if it does ask you for it in decimal form, that's how you do it. You just go Control Enter. We'll do this one as well just for the sake of it, so I won't talk too much through it. Same idea here. Feel free to pause the video and get ahead of me if you want to and see if you can get it yourself. Don't forget to write the comma x in, press return, and there we have it. It needs a bit of translation, does it not? So this says minus 3 multiplied by, and then it's got root 73 minus 9. So that's fine. That's how I would write it down. It's clear to me that when I see this kind of format, that I would say I should have been using the quadratic formula to solve this problem. There's probably no better way of doing it. Certainly wouldn't use completing the square with an odd number in the middle. So, and clearly by looking at this, there's no simple way of factorizing it. So I would go a equals -1, b equals 27, c equals minus 180. Therefore, x equals -27 plus or minus the square root of 27 squared minus 4 times -1 times -180 all over 2 times -1. So I'd write that down, and then I wouldn't do anything more. I'd go in here, hit the solve button, write this down. Easy as that, I think. Just make sure you can understand what it's telling you here. Normally, if you want to be a little bit clever about it, really, what we would, if we had followed this process through by hand instead of using my calculator, I reckon it would have been 3 outside of 9 plus or minus root 73 over 2. That's how we would have finished it off. So if you can see from this that you would get 3 outside of 9 plus or minus root 73, good on you, because it's not that hard, not that easy to see. But yeah, that would be like the ideal way of matching it up with the quadratic formula that you created. But of course, it is hard to see that. So if you just simply write this down, you will get full marks for it. Question 5, write the following equations for parabolas in turning point form. And remember, turning point form means, I'll just type it in here, I don't know how well it will look, y equals a outside of x minus h all squared plus k. That is turning point form. Okay, if h was negative, then that would be x plus something. If k were negative, that'd be minus something. A could be a decimal number or a fraction. So there's a few variations on theme. A could be 1, in which case the A would be missing in action, but would be implied there to be 1. So there's a few ways that might look, but that's the format you have to get it into. Using your calculator to solve this, we go to the menu button, we go to Algebra, and look down here, you will see complete the square as option 5, like so. Now, we type it in exactly as it says here, I think. This is where I should have practiced before I did the video, but I think this is right. -4, close bracket, and return. I think actually it doesn't have the y equals, so I think you just put in the expression x squared minus 10x minus 4. Press return. Y equals, and then a comma x. I really should have practiced this beforehand, shouldn't I? There we go. So you're completing the square with respect to x. So this is what it looks like. But this is not turning point form. Turning point form is y equals blah, 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 blah. So you would have to take this format and you would have to do a little bit of work yourself to get it into the right format. So for example, it would be minus x minus 5 all squared. Don't worry about that answer bit. Equals minus y plus 20, minus 29. A little bit of work to do. And then you would say, okay, to get it into y equals, I'd have to add y to that side, and I'd add minus x minus 5x squared to the other side. So I'd end up with y equals minus x minus 5 all squared minus 29. So that minus would not be there. And that's what it would look like. So that's what you're sort of given, but that's what you need to translate it into so it's in that right form. So your GDC won't do all the work for you, but it will take out that whole middle step of having to work out. Now you may decide with something like this that it's easier just to do it by hand. That's fine, and just using your calculator support. But I reckon if you did a few problems like using completing the square, it would probably give you a good sense of how to do it. I'm just going to do the next one just to finish off the quiz. So y equals 4x squared plus 14x plus 2 with respect to x. I'll just type it in literally from the question here. This is because I've got something in front of the 4x squared there. It's probably a really good idea to do this on your calculator. That gives me this horrible looking thing. But again, we can translate it. So for example, I can multiply everything through by 4 to get minus 16 outside of x plus 7 over 4 squared equals minus 4y minus 41. I don't have anything I can show you by writing on it, so I'm sorry, I'll just verbalizing it here, and then just keep manipulating it until you get to y equals. So it would look pretty horrible. So not horrible, but it would take a few more steps after you've done this bit, but at least you're not dealing with a non-monic completing the square completely by hand. Okay, I think that's about it. So if there's anything here you'd like me to see, particularly like this, and how to change this into how to finish the problem off in turning point form once the calculator's done its business, just drop me a line and I'll do a separate video. But otherwise, I'll assume that you're kind of okay to sort it out from there.